Yo, good morning, guys. It's Friday, so it's another video. Appreciate you guys tuning in again. I hope you guys watched last week's video. Today, we're gonna talk about something that I've had a lot on my mind, man, for a long time since a kid, bro. I want to give you guys some context. I'm sure you've already seen the title, and I love this topic of like what it is to be a man and like manhood and I don't want to say like masculinity because it's been so tainted in today's culture and society, but pretty much that, bro. We're gonna hit it head on, right? And we're gonna try to speak with accuracy, with truth, and to give you guys some context. Like I explained last video, as I was growing up, I didn't grow up with a father, right? So a lot of things that I know today are not things. They're a culmination of experience and also like knowledge, research, looking up, sources, all these things. So I'm not telling you something that I'm regurgitating from TikTok clips or Andrew Tate videos or these red pill videos. I'm like, if you're a guy that you're into these videos, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've lived through things, I've experienced, I've failed, I have won, I've learned, I've grown, right? And the most important thing to know is that if you're a man, and even if you're a woman, the one thing that you're born with that no one could take away from you is your masculinity and it's your femininity, right? It is your nature, it's how you were designed, it's how you were made, and it's how you were created. So if you're not in tune with that, everything else, like the foundational piece of who you are, like your genetic makeup, it literally does not matter because you're refusing to neglect your purpose, your desires. You're neglecting how you're wired or you're hardwired, right? So with that being said, right, as I'm growing up, to give you guys some context before I get into the two talking points I have, I grew up with no father. I had my brother around until I was like 13, 14, and around that time when he went to the military, life started getting very interesting, complicated, complex. I was in middle school, entering high school, and for me, it was normal not having a father figure around, right? So growing up, a lot of things were hard for me and they were confusing. I actually had to go through the growing pains and struggles of learning a lot of things on my own, man. What seemed so easy for a lot of kids my age, to me, was like rocket science. And the good thing about me is that before my brother left to the military, and my mother, what she showed me growing up was work ethic, hard work, um, having faith in your journey. So it was those things that allowed me to figure out that rocket science per se, right? So, while some guys seemed like they're cruising by, they're learning super fast. I was really putting in work. I was running cross country at the time, or I'm trying to play basketball, so I'm doing a lot of basketball drills to become a better athlete rather than focusing on other things. That being said, right, a lot of the things that I know now are a culmination of those young years for me, those formative years of putting in work and struggling, because without those formative years, I would have never had the resilience to join the military and do what I did and struggle the way I did, right? But anyways, that's the context of how I'm going to speak to you guys directly. The specifics of my life and my journey, I could touch on another video, but I want to get to these talking points, right? Because if you're tuning in, I want you guys to get value. So the two talking points that we're going to hit on, right? I'm going to hit one first, and I want you to stick around for the second one. The first one, how men neglect their manhood in today's age, right? It's 2026, right? Today, manhood and masculinity is a taboo kind of topic. And if you hear someone talk about it, you kind of roll your eyes and you're like, oh, brother, right? It's been overplayed. It's been touched on by many people. But the reason why I want to touch on it is because we're about to touch on some very good things, all right? So this is the first point. A lot of men these days, you have a lot of boys that are grown, but not necessarily men. They're not masculine, right? And this reflects on how they speak and how they walk and how they talk, how they behave around their women, how their women treat them, what they pursue in life, the things that they like, their like and dislikes, right? And the main culprit for that, one of them, right, the first point is lack of accepting responsibility. Once you accept responsibility in your life, you can't go back to doing the things that you did when you were a boy, right? An example of this that you guys can relate to is once someone gets a girlfriend or a job or a child, they say, oh man, this kid changed my life. I was a dad at 19 or 20 years old. He changed my life. It's not that the kid changed your life. He actually made it harder, but through the hard experience of having a kid, of realizing, damn, I got responsibility on my shoulders, now your behavior is different. Now you're realizing how a man should operate, in the sense that, hey, you're not operating just for yourself, you're operating for the people around you. You're seen as a protector, as a provider, as someone that needs to be competent to come with solutions. So that's one example, right, of how men, when they get more responsibility, they change for the better. Another way, right, is when they get a woman. Some men, they make the mistake, a lot of men, they want to become a good man once they find a good woman. On the contrary, the good men, they don't wait for the moment to be a good man. It's just in their nature. It's instilled in them, right? So whenever you meet a girl and now you want to put on a good fit, or now you want to act different or speak different, you look phony, you look corny. It's not really hidden true, and she feels that. She knows that. Girls could tell, right? They're very socially, they're hardwired to be socially more adept sometimes than men, a lot of times, us, for men, for example, we settle disputes with violence and threats. Women, they don't have that capability. They know they're not going to fight another girl. Some of these wretched girls out here might, I don't know. But for the most part, they've learned since young girls to be socially smart, observing, speaking when necessary, right? So whenever you're a guy that you're not genuine and you're not yourself, you're looking like a phony because you want to impress her, you're going to look weak, right? And that's a result of you not being in tune with your masculinity. You're not in tune with your purpose. You're not in tune with the responsibilities. And now you're trying to counteract that and overbalance that and do too much, and everyone sees through that, right? So that's the first talking point, right? I want to make this short and sweet for you guys, right? We're already at 6 minutes, right? The second talking point, which is incredibly important as well, right, is today's men, they don't accept the truth. Now, what is the truth? Because a lot of days we get caught up in this mumbo jumbo, this spirituality manifestation bullcrap. Oh, there is no truth. Your truth is not my truth. No, there is a truth, right? What is it? Let's start with the most basic truth. We're all on this earth. We are on a planet called Earth. Those are truths that us as humans, we have come up with and we agree with. If someone were to say to me that we're living on the moon, I'm going to be like, okay, this person is just joking around, or they're insane, right? So that being said, there is a truth about masculinity. There is a truth about your purpose. There is a truth about why we're here. There is a truth on what you're meant to do. The denial of that truth, let's get to the extreme point that I'm trying to make, is if you deny that to me as a man, as a fellow man, I'm going to look at you as you're insane. I'm going to look at you as like, okay, well, if you're denying the truth that you have a purpose and you have responsibility and your job is to become competent and to be strong and to be a leader for the people around you, what are you wasting your time on? What else are you wasting your time on? Because that is a truth that I've accepted as a kid. Since a kid, I've always tried to be better, be smarter, be stronger, and I haven't necessarily accomplished all of that. It's a lifelong goal, but I failed miserably at times. But the great thing as a man is that when you wake up, God willing, you wake up with a brand new 24 hours in your day. So you go and try and fail again, and you learn. But if you're not doing that, and I'm asking you guys a question, if you refuse to accept that being a man is important, and that your purpose is important, and you need to grow for the people around you to be someone you depend on, right? What other alternative do you have? What you bear the name of a man, you have the biology of a man, but your nature is that of a boy. A lot of times we look at our youth, man or female, and we remember the good old days, right? We think of days with no responsibility where everything was play, because you're learning so much about life. Every single stranger you come up to and you're talking to is so kind, or maybe not, but it's new. It's a novel experience. Every single friend that you meet in elementary or middle school is so different, and it's a new chance to interact with people and all that. But for some reason, there never comes a stage in life where someone sits us down and talks to us and says, hey, listen, you're getting older now. You're gonna have to accept new responsibilities. You're gonna have to accept the truth of being a grown-up human. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have fun and you can't enjoy life, but on the contrary, it just means that to get that reward of happiness and fulfillment and that same feeling you got as a child, now it comes with facing your responsibilities. If you don't, you're gonna see that life gets increasingly hard. Life will get very difficult. You're gonna wake up one day, be 30 years old, living in your mom's house, wondering why you've had the same job for 10 years. You're gonna wake up thinking, wow, I did everything I was told. I went to college, got the good job, and now I'm 40 years old and I still feel unfulfilled. You're gonna wake up one day thinking, well, damn, where did all the time go? Me and my friends are doing the same things. We're talking about the same things, watching the same football games every Sunday. These things by themselves are not bad, guys. I'm not knocking them, but they gotta be accompanied with some kind of reward at the end through your hard work, through your labor. Work is not, we've been accustomed to see work, right? And this is the false truth of today's world, right? Men and women have been accustomed to see work as something laborsome, annoying, bad, when it really is not the case. Work should be the vehicle in which you derive your fruits, where you derive your rewards, right? There is no fruit, there is no reward without work. In the gym, right, for all my gym bros, there is no gains without pain, right? No pain, no gain, right? Corny, but it's absolutely true. If if you do not put in the work, you're not gonna see the reward. And as men, that is the first truths that you gotta accept, right? You gotta accept that you need to have responsibility. And the reason why I put this the second point a second about accepting truth is because until you accept that you need to accept responsibility and you accept that it is a truth, you're not accepting the truth. So first you need to realize, yo, look, there is a truth out there that I have to search for. I yearn for, right? I think as men, we yearn for truth. We yearn for things that speak to our soul. We yearn for a mission, a purpose. It's the reason why a lot of men these days play Call of Duty, or they play Warzone, or they play these games where you have an actual mission, right? Think about the name, Call of Duty. You're attached to that video game. I know I was as a kid, because it gives you a mission, it gives you a duty, it gives you an enemy to defeat. It gives you a measurable metric on which whether you're succeeding or failing, right? If I kill someone in Call of Duty, I feel good. It's like an instant dopamine hit. But it's not the only way that men are finding dopamine these days. There's so many other ways, guys. But this is all encompassing of the truth. And this is why I make these videos. These are things that I've seen in my life and my journey. These are things that I've witnessed as a man, that I've lived through. I've seen other men go through it. I've seen older men do it. And that's the paths that I try to avoid. I've seen older men do very well. And these are paths that I try to take. But the most important thing, guys, is that me as a man, and I hope you as a listener, there's people that you want to avoid and there's people that you want to be like. The most important thing is that you find who you want to be, the path that you want to take. And every single day you're striving to that, man. That's the most important thing anybody can ever give you, anyone can ever tell you. And it's supposed to come from a father. So, you know, whoever you are, no matter what your age is, whether you're 30 years old or 15 years old, hopefully I'm that figure, not a father figure, but a figure that's speaking logic and reason to you as a man. Because we're men, man. We don't operate off these emotions. We don't operate on probability. We operate on probability, right? We operate on what is actually going to happen in life if I don't improve. What is actually going to happen in life if I'm not a smart man? What is actually going to happen if I continue to be this man that my woman doesn't respect, or I continue to be this man that people can't look at for answers? You're not going to feel like who you're supposed to be. Come on, man. Last thing I'm going to leave you guys with real quick. How is it that we have Alexander the Great conquering multiple span of continents back in the hundreds, right? Or BC, I don't know when it was. But then we have men like doing the bare minimum, being 40-year-old freaking weirdos living with their moms. Like, why is that? Ask yourself, right? It's because back then men had a focus. They had a singular purpose. They were locked in. They didn't have distractions. And even think about this. That's not necessarily true, because Alexander the Great, if you are a ruler, a conqueror, and you're really this amazing man, you're going to have all the distractions in the world. You're going to have women, riches, fame, power, influence. But what's leading you to still go on these campaigns and conquer the world? It's his purpose. He understood as a young boy, like, yo, I'm going to be a conqueror. I'm going to be a hero. And he did that. Now tell me what the purpose is of a man that's staying home playing video games till he's 40 years old, denying responsibility. I'll leave you guys to answer on your own. But until next time, you know, I'll see you next week. Appreciate you tuning in. Peace, y'all.